grapples with memories that are not her own, young Vara searches for safety, and for answers. At the mouth of a dark alley, a sentry struggled to light his lantern. A storm was rolling in, and he wanted as much warmth as he could muster before the rain hit. As flint rasped against steel, and the man cursed, a huge, scarred hand emerged from the shadows behind him and clamped over his face. The sentry tried to open his mouth to shout, but his attacker's grip was strong. "Where is the girl?" a rough voice with a mountain accent asked. The watchman was overcome by the smell of sweat and steel as he stuttered out. What girl?" His attacker growled, and there was a muted crack as the watchman's head bounced off the grimy brick wall. As he crumpled to the ground, the last thing the man saw was a pair of shaggy, fur-lined boots, and the cape of clan berserker stepping over him. The figure was enormous, his chest crisscrossed with pale scars, and a dark, iron greataxe gripped in one massive fist. "Useless," Direwolf grunted, glancing up and down the street. He had made it out of the spire before the alarm was raised, but had lost the girl in the chaos. "Run, child. Direwolf, go with her. Keep her safe. Keep her safe." He could still hear his queen's last command, ringing in his ears as Crown Watch hammers had broken through the door to her quarters. He had started to argue that no, his place was here, by her side. But Eileen had overruled him. No time. The warning barely outran Kafis' return. "You know what it means. You know what he will do next." Now Direwolf ran, moving quickly despite his armor and bulk. Thunder rolled overhead, and lightning illuminated winged shapes in the heavy clouds that hung over the city. "They're out hunting," Direwolf realized, rounding a corner at a full sprint. He passed a covered cart that half-blocked an intersection, bowling over the driver, and spooking his horse without slowing down. The square beyond was filled with brightly colored tents, a bazaar of some kind. The merchants' calls blurred together as Direwolf turned down a side street, and came face to face with a Crown Watch soldier. Startled, Direwolf raised his axe, turning all his momentum into a single, scything strike. The soldier was quick, and narrowly avoided the death blow. The axe head buried itself in the ground with crunch, and Direwolf saw the soldier stumble backwards, reaching for a horn hung on his belt. Eyes wide, the soldier tried to bring up a long, metal staff with his other hand, but Direwolf batted it aside as he took a step forward and laid the man out with a heavy punch. As the man fell, Direwolf wrenched his axe free, and looked up to see Vara, halfway up the block, crouched over the unconscious form of another soldier in Crown Watch green. Fierce pride surged through Direwolf as he hurried towards her. The girl stood, still staring at the fallen man's breastplate, one scraped and bloody hand held out in front of her. "We must go," the warrior said, shortly. Vara flinched in surprise, and turned to face him. "Direwolf," she asked, shaking, "what's happening? Where's mother?" In shock, Direwolf thought. "Best get her moving." Out loud, he responded, his voice hard. "By now? In the cells beneath the spire." But why?" Direwolf reached out, and took Vara by the hand, pulling her along until she had to run to keep up. Somewhere far behind them, they heard a Crown Watch horn blare as thunder rolled again. Direwolf couldn't hide his fury as he said, "Your father turned a summit with clan elders into a bloodbath. They were slaughtered, their warriors cut down. He returned, and ordered the queen detained. We resisted, but there were too many." The warrior's voice sank to a furious growl, his accent growing thicker as he added, "Tonight, the clans have fallen." It was hours later, and the steady, gray rain was soaking into Direwolf's cape. Vara huddled beneath it, shivering, as the two crouched below the sagging roof of a saloon. The building itself was a little more than a burned-out shell, but it provided some cover. They had made it to the outskirts of Argenport, to a rundown part of the city that backed into the great outer wall. But the Crown Watch patrols had grown more frequent, and Vara had spotted a Valkyrie as it swept down from the storm clouds to bark orders at the guards. So they watched, and waited, Diraka holding his axe tight in one hand as he listened to Vara mutter to herself. Visions of sand and darkness. Why do I know this? I haven't left the Argenport. The girl had always been a little dark for Diraka's liking, but she had grown up in a city that distrusted her and her mother.
Which would you like?
And now she's lost even that, he thought. Island nearly took this city. There was a pensive pause, then Vara asked quietly, so what happens next? I get you out of here. Like Island wanted. She shook her head, looking up at Diraka's grim expression. No, I mean for father. The huge bodyguard grunted. Without the clans to oppose him? Whatever he wants. But why do this? Why now? Diraka sighed. The clans were a threat. Island showed this when she nearly took the city. The marriage bought Kafis time. And now Roland and his tinkers have something that can oppose our Skyriders. Valkyrie, Vara said, the word turning to fog in the damp air. But now it's not just Mother and her Queen's Guard in Argenport, it's me. You are Kafis heir, Diraka agreed, shifting to pull the sodden cape tighter around them, ahead of that bastard of his. So why, Vara began, but her question was drowned out by a sudden uproar. There they are. Over there, a voice called out from a nearby tower. Around them, lights began to dot the night as the guards lit lanterns and torches. Diraka was already moving, pulling Vara away as the first arrow cut through the night, striking the ground less than a foot from their hiding spot. Vara heard the thud of boots behind them as she found her feet, and ran, sprinting alongside Diraka. They turned left, then right, weaving back into the small lanes and narrow passages that had helped them evade capture before. Twice, they thought they had lost their pursuers, only to hear another call, and the sound of horns behind them again. As they ran, Vara thought she saw shapes overhead, sharp shadows cutting through the storm. What do we do? Where do we go? Vara gasped. She had run and played through the halls and courtyards of the Spire when she was younger, but her lungs have never burned like this before. I told Island we never should have come to this city, Diraka muttered, breathing hard. We are alone, far from home, and down there. Vara hissed, pointing to the trash-choked mouth of a back street, half hidden by the growing night. Diraka jerked his head in a nod and the pair turned, swinging around the corner, and down the thin alley to find nothing. Just a grimy brick wall. Vara heard the clatter of boots behind them. A dead end. A trap, Diraka spat. Of course, a voice behind them crowed. The best way to dispose of vermin. Vara blinked. The voice was harsh and commanding, cut through with the hungry malice of a carrion bird. No. Vara and Diraka turned, the big bodyguard taking a half step forward to put himself between the girl and the squad of armored guards at the mouth of the alley. But in front of them, descending on large, leathery wings, was another figure. Her skin was gray, and her hair cut short and ragged. She held a heavy saber in one hand, and Vara saw that her legs ended in long, scaly claws. Icaria, first reaper of the silver blades, grinned, and her teeth were blood-stained and needle-sharp. You run long enough. Icaria, Vara breathed, head swimming. She had heard the name before, bandied about in dark whispers throughout the Spire. There were many rumors of Roland's bloody experiments. Icaria was the first Valkyrie, and the deadliest, Roland's enforcer and bloody right hand. And she was here. In front of her, Diraka nodded. Who do you think led the attack? The nightmare in front of Vara turned to look at the warrior, her smile sharpening. Your brothers begged for mercy as we cut them down. Murderer. Diraka thundered. Around him, the rain began to turn into sleet, then snow, as ice coated the blade of his axe. Icaria sneered, and the soldiers beneath her shifted uneasily. Vara took a step back, eyes darting around the alley. Nothing but wet brick and a rusting drainpipe. I'm light enough to climb, but Diraka. She looked up, and caught his gaze. Diraka twitched his head at the pipe. Vara shook her head.
You're worth more dead than alive.
The throne must be destroyed.
Time to reflect.
A small incision.
Shadows darken.
The Skylords return!
Focus, child.
I see them.
You aren't welcome here.
Which would you like?
Embrace the shadow.
Come, step into the shadow. step into the shadow.
Touch of shadow.
Thank you for your gifts.
Don't make me angry.
Your coin or your life?
Your sword, gentlemen.
Every scrap counts.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Our steel is sharp. Axes up!